Right, so welcome back to a new video on the ARP 2600. So on this one, we need to talk about the sequencer. I've already released a video about the rest of the synthesizer. So, talking about pretty much everything about the sequencer. So now on this one, we are just going to cover the sequencer because the other video was too long already. So, of course, I can recommend first to learn how the synth works. I'm going to give you the link right here at the top on the cards or on the description. Go there first, and when you're ready, then come back and learn the sequencer. Now, of course, if you like this series, if you like these videos, please like, please subscribe. It's just free and really helps a lot. And if you can and you can afford it, check Patreon, just to help the channel keep the lights on. I'm gonna always start from a default patch. So by default, you get disconnected. For now, we are going to disconnect it because we are gonna learn all of this from the scratch. Now, the first thing that we need to learn is how to stop, how to start, how to step, and how to reset. And all these controls are gonna happen right here within this ins, outs, and this buttons right here. Now, the easiest is going to be this one, this start and the stop. So this means that, of course, something is going to trigger this and it's going to start it and it's going to stop it. So I'm going to go right here and connect this one at the very bottom, and I'm going to go right here. So these ones are very important for us. This one is the gate and this one is the trigger. And notice that they have different symbols. And it's because the gate, it means that when we press a key, it's going to stay open, and as soon as we release the key, it's going to close, just like a gate. And the other one is the trigger. So when we press a key, it's going to trigger something, but it has no idea what sustain is. So it doesn't matter if we are holding a key, it's just going to, not going to do it. It's just going to trigger something and that's it. So, okay, so what we want to do, we want to trigger somehow the starting of the sequencer. Notice that we are in position 1 and you have all the lights right here. For now, we're going to work with this. So this option right here will tell pretty much how to when we start and when we stop. And right now we are in gate. So it means that if the gate is open, we are going to be playing. If not, we are going to be stopping. If I play a key, and notice that right here at the bottom, we have the keys. If I play a key and keep pressing, and for now, I'm just going to go and disable the oscillator because we just going to, or maybe go low. We don't need to hear it. We just need to see the lights right here. So as soon as I play a key, it's going to go and it will, start the sequence and it will play the sequence. As soon as I release a key, and notice that I'm pressing a key right here at the bottom, if I release the key, it's going to stop. So that's what the gate means. It means if the gate is open, the sequencer is going to play. As soon as I release the keys, the gate is closed, so it will stop. That's why this control is called start and stop, right? This patch bay. Then you have all the ones right here, which is the gate out, and then it's going to say start, and then at the bottom, it's going to say stop. So instead of having a combination on the same spot, we have it on kind of a separate places. So instead of connecting that one, I'm going to go and connect the gate to the start. So now if I play a key, it's going to start the, the sequencer, but it will not, stop. That's what it means starts. The gate opens, and as soon as it will, it opens, it will start, and it doesn't care if we are holding or not holding the key. It's just going to start and never stop. And it doesn't matter if I, press other keys. It's just going to, go and go and go. Then you have the other one, which is going to be stop. So this is the opposite of this. I'm going to remove the, the patch bay, and notice that the sequencer is still going. So we need a way to stop it. So we can use still the gate to provide that instruction. As soon as the gate opens, it's going to stop it. So I'm going to go and play a key right here at the bottom, and the sequencer will stop. And of course, if I press a key, it will never start again because we are not providing that instruction. Now, right here, you have a button, and this button will start the sequence or stop the sequence if you play again. So then you get the other one, which is going to be the trigger. So what happens if you want to do the same thing, but we want to do it with the trigger? Remember that this one has no idea how to sustain. So if I patch this to the start and stop, and for now I'm going to stop the sequencer, I'm going to go and play something, play a key, and notice that nothing happens. It has no idea how to start, because right here you have this switch. This switch will say, okay, you know what? I want to listen to a gate, or I want to listen to the trigger. So now, instead of listening to a gate, it's going to be expecting for a trigger to start. So if I press a key, it's going to start the sequence, and we can see it right there going. If I disconnect this one, what happens if I'm going to stop it right here? If I go right here and patch the gate to the start, this will work the same way. It's expecting for a trigger to trigger of course, to trigger this. If I play it, it's gonna, of course, trigger and start this sequence. If I want to stop it, I'm gonna go right there and I'm gonna play a key right here at the bottom and I'm gonna stop the sequencer. Now, one funny thing that you get is that with the gate, this will, of course, if we listen to the gate, it means that if I play and hold the key, the sequencer will go. And if I release it, because, you know, the gate is open, it's going to stop it. With the trigger, it's going to be a little bit different. Because remember that the trigger has no release, has no sustain stage. So it doesn't know when we are holding or not. So if the sequencer is stopped, as soon as I play a key, it will, you know, and I need to put in trigger, it will start the sequence. But if I play again, it's going to stop it, right? Because again, it has no sustain stage. It has no idea. It's just a trigger. So I'm going to go and connect the gate to the start and the stop. And instead of listening for gate right here, you know, so we can press and hold, I'm going to keep it on trigger. So if I press a key, it will, you know, do pretty much the same thing. And as soon as I release it, it will not stop, you know, it just knows how to trigger. That's, you know, the instruction. And if I play again and hold the key, it's just going to stop it, right? So the other thing that we get is going to be the trigger or maybe the reset, right? We have these two instructions, the step and the reset. So first we're going to go to the reset because it's going to be a little bit easier. So the reset, what it will do, it will restart the sequence from the beginning, from the step number 1. And we can do it with the button. If I press this, notice that it's going to start from the beginning every time I press it, you know? There we go. So now what happens if I want to do this with something? So I'm going to go and patch the reset to the trigger. And notice that remember again that we are stopping and playing the sequence with the trigger. So in this case, I'm going to go and change it to gate. So as soon as I play it and hold the key, notice I'm playing holding key, and right now I'm just going to bring something right here at the top. I'm playing and holding a key, it goes, right? Because I'm holding. And as soon as I release it, it will stop. But if I play it again, remember the trigger is saying, dude, I triggered something, so I want you to reset. So every time I play a key, a new key, it will just start again from the beginning. Right, so that's what it means. So now the problem is that I need to hold the key in order to have the sequencer, you know, go through. But maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe I just want to press a key and I want to restart it every time I press a new key, but I don't want to hold it. So remember that you have the start and you have the stop. So since you don't need to stop, you can use just the gate to start the sequence. And every time that you will, you know, press a key, it will start the sequence and you don't need to hold it. So I'm going to press a new key and it will start the sequence. And every time I press a new key, it will just restart it from the beginning. And I'm not holding, you know, just changing and pressing different keys. Okay, so for now, I'm going to go and disconnect this. And I'm going to stop the sequence. So then you have this step. And for now, you know, nothing is happening. So if I press the step, notice what is going on. It's just going to the next step every time I click. So this is what this means. It means that every time that we received an instruction right here, it's going to move one step. And we can use this in different ways. So let's try to do the same. Let's say every time I do a trigger, I'm going to move one step, right? Because that's what it means. When we trigger something, it's going to go just one step up. Right? I press a new key and goes to the new step. And what if we use the gate? Well, it's going to be pretty much the same thing because we are providing an instruction that we are kind of starting something, and this doesn't care about, you know, the closing of the gate. So if I press a new key and I don't hold, it doesn't matter. It's just going to go to the next step. So now you can use a combination of all of this, just, you know, to start your sequence, or, you know, maybe to advance the steps, or to maybe keep the sequencer holding or playing while you're doing some other things. Now, if I go to a default patch, which is going to be this one, this is going to be the default. So it has to start when we press a key. So when we press a key, the gate is going to open and this will start it. And it means that it will not stop it. Notice that nothing is connected to the stop. So we'll go and play the sequence, right? But then, of course, we have the trigger, which is going to be the reset. So it means that every time we play a new key, the sequence will restart. And that's you know, what's going to happen. I'm going to go and press a key. and it will start. If I press a new key, just, it will go to the beginning. Okay, so now we know all of this section. We need to talk about the skip and the reset, but they work with the gate buses. So we're going to talk about this in a few minutes. First, we need to kind of do the most obvious thing, which is going to be getting some sound or getting some modulation out of this. And this is going to be with the quantized out A and the B. So this is what will go and provide an instruction to something, so we can do something, because right now we are just going and not doing anything. So this one is going to be the out. So let's say that I want to kind of create some kind of a something right here with the controls, and for now I'm just going to go randomly to whatever value. It doesn't matter. Notice it goes on semitones. And I'm just going to randomly go there and there and there and there. It doesn't matter right now. So now we are providing an instruction. So how can we, do something? So we need to connect the quantized out to whatever it is that we want to modulate. In this case, since we want to, let's say, connect it to a VCO to get some, pitch, because we are using semitones, we need to connect it to the keyboard out. Remember, this one on each oscillator is going to be the one that will provide the instruction of what needs to be played. Right? In this case, if disconnected, it's listening to the keyboard, which is each key we play. If we connect this one, now the instruction is going to be whatever we do right here at the bottom. Now, of course, the default connection right now is going to be the gate. So if I press a key and hold it, notice I'm pressing a key and holding it, notice that we can hear something. And it's doing everything that we are doing, that we are instructed right here at the bottom. As soon as I release the key, we cannot hear anything. And this is because, of course, the synthesizer and all the oscillators will go through different stages. They will go through the BCF and they will go through the ADSR. Even though this is going and providing an instruction to the VCO, the envelopes are closing. And that's why we hear no sound. They are not, opening. So maybe if I press and hold, seems I'm doing a lot of sustain, we can hear this, but as soon as I close this, we cannot hear anything. And if I do something like that, we get a very kind of a mild sound. Now, notice that if I press one key, the first key I press the first time is going to be louder. And the rest ones, the other ones, the rest of the sequence is just very, not loud. It's very quiet. And this is the same problem. The envelope is kind of listening to the key we play, and it's not listening to each step on the sequencer. It's just listening to what we press on the keyboard. So how can we, tell the synthesizer to listen to the sequencer and not what we do on the keyboard? So now it's time to talk about the clock, this one. So now we covered this, so now we need to talk about this. So of course, this has a clock and it goes and follows an instruction. You have these controls right here, but the most important part for us right now is going to be the clock out. And notice that you have the light going on and on and off. So this is the instruction of what is going on right here. So instead of using the keyboard as an instruction or to trigger the envelopes, we can use the clock to trigger the ADSR, which is what making all the steps quieter. Very quiet. So now at each step, it's saying, go and trigger the envelope. So now it's triggering on each step. Right, so remember that if it's a little bit annoying after a while, you can stop right here and you can, click a button and start it again. So of course the clock, since this is a clock, we have some options. If I start it again, we can MIDI sync with the DAW, and now of course it's going to be much faster. I believe I'm using 110 as a BPM, and this is going to be free mode. I'm sorry, this is free and this is MIDI sync. So if I move this, notice that it's giving me the instruction right here, tempo ×2, ×1, blah, 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 and so on and so on. And if I go to this one, we are working on frequencies. So it's, a little bit different. Now notice that one thing is happening, what is happening right now, is that everything, it's kind of a super sharp. And this is of course because of the envelope. But notice that if I go sustain up or sustain down, nothing happens. So what happens is that this, of course, this clock is going to be, let me stop it for now. This clock is going to be a square, just like this one. And notice that the gate, or the square, they have some kind of a sustain. So since this is going to be the instruction, if I start it again, this is going to be very short, because it has a short, kind of a gate, or let's say pulse. And this is going to be the pulse width. Right now, all the way down, it's very short. As soon as I go up, notice the light is going to get, not super short, and we're going to get more. And this is because now the notes on each step are longer. Shorter notes, longer notes. Now, of course, depends on what you have on the envelope. You're going to make it super, sustain them a lot more, or sustain them less. Another thing that you get is going to be the PWM. So what you can do, you can modulate this control. So it's like, grabbing something, an LFO, for example, and doing something like this. So some steps are going to be wide, and some other steps are going to be very short. So maybe I'm going to go to a sine wave right here, and I'm going to disconnect the mod wheel, so we can always going to be triggering this, and I'm going to disable the vibrato. So now we have an LFO modulating this control. And notice that right here, you can decide how aggressive this is going to be. And I'm going to go full so we can really hear, the transitioning. So if I started, notice that some notes are going to be wider, and some other notes are going to be, closer, short, kind of shorter. Now this is going to be a bit more obvious if I use the square, because this one is like an on and off. So if I make it really slow, maybe slower, something like that, and I'm going to go aggressive on this one, and a little bit slower, and I'm going to go and kind of make it shorter. There we go. There we go. So notice that some notes are longer and some other ones are kind of short. Since of course we are using a slow LFO, sometimes it's going to be here, and when it changes, it's going to be right here. So of course you can use this as a, to your advantage. And notice that right now we are on MIDI sync, or we are, not on MIDI sync. Let's do MIDI sync. So we can of course make this one MIDI sync. And there we go. Some notes are going to be longer, some other ones are going to be shorter. Pretty simple. All right, so let me stop it. So let me just disconnect all the things that we don't need, because if you think about this, we don't need to trigger, with this. We can just start and stop from this button if we wanted to. So the next big thing after the pulse width modulation is going to be the FM clock. So if you think about this, this is a clock, and it's following, of course, a rate, which is going to be the clock frequency. But at the end of the day, this is a square, it's a pulse, just like this LFO. So what we can do, we can frequency modulate the square. We can modulate the pulse. So if I start this, something like that, and I'm going to go and maybe do the sine wave, something like that. So nothing's going to happen. Of course, I'm going to need to move this control. And notice that if I go all the way down, it says no modulation. As soon as I go up and we cross that point, what is going on? So this sine wave, of course, is providing an instruction, and it's telling, okay, so on some steps, you're going to be playing faster, and some other ones are going to be slower, because again, you're messing with the frequency of the clock. So if I go more, some, steps are going to be ×4, and some other ones are just going to be, very slow. And of course, you can mess with the tempo right here. It's going to be a little bit different, or maybe just use a different LFO, like a square. And this is, of course, a little bit more obvious. Notice that it goes normal. Let me go slower. Maybe there. And of course, when this instruction is all the way down, we are not doing any modulation. It's just normal speed. But then when it's up, the LFO is up, it goes faster, because we are doing ×2. So it's going to go ×2 on when the of course the LFO is all the way up on the square. Right. So we are just frequency modulating the clock of the sequencer. Pretty easy stuff. Now, when you start unsyncing, or, you start unsyncing the tempos, you're going to start to get different sounds. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go to a default patch and I'm going to disconnect this because we kind of already know how this works. So we know now that, of course, we can get some sound out of this. I'm going to connect it to the oscillator number 1. Then we know that we can get the clock out to trigger the ADSR so we can hear something when we do play. And if we modify and make something right here, something, something like that, whatever, it doesn't matter right now, then it's going to matter. But for now, it doesn't matter. I just want to get something else. Then we know it's really short, but we can, of course, make it a bit wider from here, and we can, of course, MIDI sync or not. Or actually, this is MIDI sync and this is free. Okay. So we kind of know all of this. We know the frequency is going to be the speed. And we know that we can mess with the clock by using the clock FM. But we need to patch it to something. If I patch it to the square right here, let me just do it. And if I go up, nothing is going to happen because we have this mod wheel connected. So I'm going to disconnect this and go down on that one. And we know that we can do this. Now, what happens if I don't want to connect it here? So this is going to be the gate buses. So the bus number 1 has a direct connection to the clock FM. The bus number 2 is just, normal mode, what we've been using. And then we're going to talk about the gate 3. So first, we're going to go to the gate bus number 1. So what this is going to do is going to do the same thing we are doing with this and the clock FM, but it's going to do it to some steps. So if I do something like this and something like that, for example, and I play it, notice it sounds a little bit different. If I go slower, notice that the steps that are going to be on bus number 1 are just playing a little bit faster. It's because we are playing them on ×3. Remember, the gate bus 1 has a direct connection to the clock FM. If I go to ×2, they're still going to be faster, but much less. And if I go up, they're going to be super fast. And the other ones are going to be slow. So this is what the gate bus 1 is going to do pretty much. It has a direct connection to make some steps faster. And the other one is going to be the normal rate. All right. If I start it again, even though some of the notes are just going faster, some of the steps are going faster, we can hear all of them because the clock out is providing this instruction. Notice how this blinks. And this is triggering the ADSR. Now, right here, you have a gate bus 1 out, a 2, and a 3. So this is going to be kind of the clock for the gate bus 1. So if I disconnect this one, I'm going to disconnect this one, and I'm going to connect the gate bus 1, and we do the same thing, we get something, but notice it's just a little bit weird. So the gate bus 1 is going to be the clock out of the bus 1. So we are only hearing the ones that are on the gate bus 1. If I, go all the way up on pretty much every single one of them, we are just playing faster, right? But we are getting a clock out on all of them. If we go back to the previous example or something, similar, only the ones on the 1 are gonna just re-trigger the ADSR. If I disconnect this one and I go to bus 2, I'm going to go to the, right here. So now the only ones that are triggering the ADSR are going to be the ones on the gate bus 2. But all the other ones are just, not playing. So now this works like we are joking the gate bus 1 steps. So let me just go here and do something like that and go a little bit faster. So notice that all the ones that are on the bus number 1 are kind of being choked. They're not kind of played. Still will go faster on those ones, but and if we go to no modulation, we are kind of skipping them or just choking the notes. And this is because right now the only ones triggering the envelope are going to be the ones on the bus number 2. Now, if you want to, of course, trigger on all the steps, you're going to need to go to clock out. That's the default, right? We already talked about this. So now all of them are just triggering. And right now we are not doing anything with the gate bus because we have no modulation, right? So if I go to gate bus number 1, and let me just do something obvious so we can really hear this. Maybe I'm gonna do something like that. There we go. So if I go to gate bus 1 and I decide for this to trigger the envelope and I start it, I'm gonna go not that fast, we're gonna go slower. Of course, we are getting a trigger of this. And if I make the envelope a little bit slower, shorter, right, we are getting something cool. We know. Now, what happens if I, try to move the pulse width? Because I want to make them, very short or wide. If I make them wide, nothing happens. If I make them short, nothing happens. So the gate bus, this one, by default, they have no idea or no notion of the pulse width. So they are more like triggers instead of kind of gates. So they have no idea how to work with the pulse width. So it doesn't matter if we patch them, we are not going to be controlling the pulse width anymore. If I go here, we have the same problem. So I'm going to go and disconnect this. And the ones that knows how to handle this is going to be the clock out. The clock has an idea of how short or how long they are. But then, you have all the choice, which is going to be, let me just disconnect it from here. You have this one, which is going to be clocked gate 1 out. And here's the solution. So the gate 1, the bus 1 can be clocked, or we can use the pulse width of the clock with the gate 1. So now, of course, the gate 1 is going to have that width. We can make it short or we can make it wide, right? So now we have that solution. But notice that this only works with bus 1. If you want to get the bus 2, of course, we can use the clock out. So then you have another thing that's going to be the position out. So I'm going to go and disconnect it and give you an example for this. I'm going to connect the position out to the ADSR. So now we know that whenever we want to hear something, of course, we are going to hear it when the ADSR gets triggered, right? On each step. But that's just not what is happening. We just hear the first one. So that's why it's the position out. So this one will only trigger when the sequencer starts. That's all. So that's what it means. That it means. That's why it's only triggering at the beginning and not on each step. Right. Okay, so, very understandable. I'm going to disconnect it. Okay, so I'm going to go and disconnect this one from here, and I'm going to go to the normal mode, which is going to be clock out and something like that. So if I play something, we are getting, just a normal thing. And I'm going to go and put them all on the bus, on the gate bus number 2. Right, so we kind of know this, and I'm going to make it like this. Okay. So then you have the gate number 3, and the gate number 3, notice that it goes right here and has a breakpoint at some point, and then it goes and says skip or reset. So this one with the gate 3 is what it's going to do. It's going to skip or either reset whatever step that is going to be on gate bus number 3. So I'm going to go maybe put this one here, put this one here, this one here, and maybe something like that. So now the steps on the bus number 3 are going to be either skipped or reset. So I'm going to go and play. And notice that nothing happens. So, okay, so what if I go to reset? If I, select reset. Can you see what's going on? So what this gate bus is going to do is going to say every time that we reach into, one of the ons on the bus number 3, on this position, notice it reaches here and then restarts. So if we are using it as reset, maybe doing all of this is not a good idea. Maybe I just want to, keep everything on the bus number 2, and maybe right here, on this one, I'm going to be resetting back to the beginning. So that's what the reset is going to do. It's just going to go back to the beginning. Now, what if I want to skip it? The skip is going to go and skip this step. Now, on this one, we can do a lot more. And this will just, skip those steps. That's what the gate bus is going to do. And in terms of the gate out, the gate bus 3, it works the same way on the other ones. Right? So pretty simple. So we are almost done. Now we have two missing pieces, which is going to be this ones are at the bottom, this 2, and the outs right now. So first we're going to talk about this one. So if I start, right now we have nothing weird. I'm going to go all to gate to the bus number 2, which is kind of the regular one. But what this will do is a random. If I go here, it's just random. So it's just pretty self-explanatory. Instead of doing sequential, it's going to do random. Right, pretty simple. So then what we have is the other option. I'm going to go sequential. We have the 16 and then we have the 8. So what this will do will divide the sequencer, since we have 16 steps, is going to create a copy and make 8 and 8. And maybe you're wondering, okay, so why are we getting a sequence of 8 and then we get the same thing on the other one? Now, you can run a sequence with these controls and do something on whatever you want to, whatever, what you want to do, whatever other, place where you want to modulate something. And then you can use the other one to do something else on some other place. For example, that's why you get the quantized A out and the B. So this is going to be the A and this is going to be the B. So let's say I want to do something like that. I don't know. I'm just, kind of trying to make it, to make it a little bit obvious. So if I play it, right now we are using the A out. So what it's doing, it's just listening to this instruction, the BCO1. But maybe I just want to do something else right here, so I'm going to be using the quantized B out. And I'm going to go and modulate the cutoff frequency. So now it's going to be stronger when we are here and, kind of a quieter if we go right here at the bottom. We are modulating two different things with two different sequencers, with the A and the B. That's why, we get this mode, and that's why you get the A and the B out. Okay, so I'm going to stop it. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and explain what we have right here. Because the weird keyword, it's quantized. So what is quantized? So first I'm going to go and put the A all on right here, right at the middle. And you can double click and go right at the middle. Okay, so what this means is that whenever they are quantized, it means that it would listen to the semitones. I'm just giving you a lame explanation. So if I do a C, I go and do a C right there, it's going to be a C. So if I place something on sequence, we will start always from this point because it's quantized and it's listening to the keyboard. Now, if I go right here and make 12 semitones up, and for now, I'm going to do it behind the scenes, pause the video and do it because you notice that it's just a little bit weird to get it into the right position. Okay, so there we go. So the 2, the 4, the 6, and the 8 are 12 semitones up. That's all. That's the only thing we are doing. And for now, I'm going to disconnect the quantized out because it's just, we are not going to use it. Okay, so if I play it again, we get the usual stuff, and I'm doing a little bit of cutting, so I'm gonna go and leave it right there. So we are doing, something right here, and then we go 12 semitones up. There we go. So if I play a key, right here, this note, this 0 semitones, is starting from this key, because this is the key we are playing, and then the other ones are gonna be 1 octave up, right? Pretty obvious. If I do this C, it's just starting from this C, the 0 semitones, and then going 12 up. Same thing if you go to the next C, and so on and on and on, which, whatever key you press. So right now, of course, it's listening to what the keyboard does, and then, doing the sequence. So, of course, that's what quantized is. If I do 12, if I do a C here, that's going to be the 0, the 0. And if I do 12 semitones up, this will know, and it will go 12 semitones up. That's why it's quantized. And I'm, telling you this because right here at the bottom, if you go all the way down, you have the sequencer outputs. And these ones are not quantized. And that's the difference. If I disconnect all of this, if I disconnect this, or maybe I'm going to leave it connected and I'm going to go maybe to a different place. I'm going to go to the oscillator number 2. And I'm going to go all the way down on the 1. And I'm going to go all the way up to the 2. And I'm going to do some playing. Notice it's different. It sounds different. And we are doing the same instruction. We are providing the same instruction to the number 2. If I, put the oscillators on the same spot, we are doing the same thing, but they sound different. And it's because what we are doing right now, we are changing this instruction. It doesn't care right now if we press a C or a low C or whatever. What we are doing is we are disconnecting the keyboard, and the only instruction for the sequencer output, since it's not quantized, is going to be whatever this instruction. So it's like disconnecting the keyboard and going in frequency mode instead of semitones. That's the difference. This one, you know, the oscillator number 1 listens to the keyboard, and the other one will not listen to the keyboard. It will just do whatever instruction that you provide here. All right. I'm going to go and disconnect this one for a second because we have other thing, which is going to be, let me start again. Let me do a C. And I'm going to go and do the oscillator number 1 because we are working with that one. And let me go to something lower. So then you have the CB input. So of course, right now what triggers everything pretty much, all the sequence, and we can hear which frequency, fundamental frequency we do, is going to be the keyboard. But this one has a CB input. So what we can do, we can disconnect the keyboard and use a different source. Like for example, an LFO. So if I go to something like this, we are not doing anything with the keyboard anymore. This LFO is controlling what comes out. So if I, play something on the keyboard, nothing is happening. So we kind of lost control of the keyboard completely. The LFO is just going to take, charge and do this. Now, of course, if I disconnect it, we are back to normal mode, so we can do things with the keyboard. Another thing we can do is we have the input out, the input A, for example. And if we go all the way up, this is going to be plus quantized 8 and plus the input A. So we can kind of have a blend of both. So, of course, if I go really fast, it's just going to sound a little bit weird. If I go a little slower, it's going to be a little bit noticeable. We're kind of making a blend of both. So now if I play keys, notice now it's listening to what we do on the keyboard, but we have, of course, a different instruction. It sounds different because it's making a blend of both. But the keyboard, we are able to use it. Of course, it sounds different. Now, of course, if we connect this one right here, again, we have no control of the keyboard. So that's the main difference. So we kind of know pretty much everything that works right here. Now, you do have some options, for example, and I'm going to disconnect this for now. And we are going to the oscillator number A. And this is the last thing we're going to do. Now, if I go and play something, and if I start the sequence, this is what we are doing. We are using this one. We are not really using this one. We are just using the A. So if I play a key, which is going to be like the, right here, maybe the fundamental, we start from here. And if I go one up, we start from here. The 0 semitones is going to be whatever new key we play. Notice that here it says keyboard CB out. So if I do X1 and connect it to this one, nothing is going to happen. If I do here, it's going to start here. If I do here, it's going to start there, right? Same thing. But then the other one says times 4. So what this one will do will pretty much kind of split the keyboard and listen to whatever key you're playing. So if I play this one, notice it goes really low. If I disconnect it and play it again, it's not that low. So this is a multiplier. So maybe if I play this key, notice that this is like the root, like the center point. If I disconnect it and we play it, nothing happens. Still doing the same thing. Now, again, the keyboard, what we'll do, whenever you go up, after this key, go up, is going to multiply it by 4. And if you go low, it's going to multiply by 4, but, going lows. So if I play this one and then I play, this one, that is going to be really high. And it's because now this is being multiplied by 4. And if I go back to the original, we are going back to the root. If I play one octave lower, is lower by 4. And we go back to the root. And notice the difference. If I disconnect, this one is still root. And if I play this one, it's not super high, right? Because we are not multiplying. And if I go low, we are not multiplying. And with this one, we multiply. That's, how it works. All right. That's it. We are done. So this is, of course, it's once you see this, when you open the plugin and you see all the things that you can do, it's just overwhelming. I've already covered all of this, and it's not a very hard synthesizer. Once you learn all the things that you can do, it's just pretty straightforward. But of course, you need to take 5. You need to spend some time and learn all the things that you can do. And the sequencer is the same thing. You look at it and you say, oh, what is this? What is this? What can I do with this? It's a little bit confusing, and it's a little bit confusing. But once you learn what you can do with this, it's just pretty obvious. So now, of course, then what you will need to do is to use it and start, experimenting and doing things with this. And the best place to start learning, how to work with this is by going to the default patches. So go to the templates. Right here, you have a million sequences. So maybe you can go to this one and just see what they are doing and how they, this one is a little bit complex, but you can see what they're doing, that they're using the gate buses, they are resetting with the trigger, they start and stop it with the gate. So now notice that the clock is going to the ADSR. Now you know why. So, now you know how this works, but, you still need to go and, play with this, look at just find all the patches and just check how they did it, right? So, okay, so hopefully all of this was useful for you. So remember to like and subscribe, and see you on the next one.